Peter, can you tell us what are open pollinated seeds?
Open pollinated seeds are reproducible seeds that will breed and give you true to type plants. They can be reproduced anywhere, so you can change country, you can take seeds with you from one country to another country, and you can adapt them, and that's what we've done for thousands of years. That's what's given us our biodiversity of food crops. Fantastic biodiversity. We know that carrots that we are enjoying today have come originally from Afghanistan, traveled all those thousands of years ago, and so have many plants, food plants, into our country, and we've adapted them where we are.
So why did you started this campaign?
So I started the campaign really when I became aware in 2004 that we were losing open pollinated seeds at a rapid rate, and they've been replaced by F1 hybrids. And knowing the fact that open pollinated seeds are reproducible seeds, are what have brought us our biodiversity in the past, I felt there's a kind of a real call here, alarm bells, that if we lose these original types of seed that can reproduce, that can be adapted to different climate zones, different soils, then we're all going to be really too much in the hands of large seed companies.
So when you say we've lost a large amount, I mean, how much have we lost?
Well, in 1992, which is more than 20 years ago, the figure was 75% of agricultural biodiversity. I think now, 20 years later, that figure, 75%, has increased somewhat still. So that is a lot of biodiversity that we've lost in a very short period of time, 100 years.
I mean, why have we lost all these, valuable, precious seeds handed down to us from our ancestors?
It's down to the breeding methods, it's down to the replacing of open pollinators by F1 hybrids. Because
what are F1 hybrids?
F1 hybrids are the modern types of food plants that have been bred, especially after the war, that in a certain sense have given security to the breeders that no one can reproduce them. That's the mechanism by which then the farmers, the gardeners, especially with the vegetables, have to come back and buy seeds every year. And of course, I think also over time there's been less input in maintaining the open pollinated types, and then they've been replaced by the hybrids, because the hybrids is what the seed companies want to have on the market.
So I know you're very keen for people to learn the arts, have the skills of seed saving. Why, and how can that help people or the seeds?
I think it's very important that when one considers our food and considers the seed, that for thousands of years, really right up to about maybe 3 generations ago, food production and seed production belonged together. So they were part of one, they were a whole. And people knew how to save their own seeds, knew how to select and adapt. This is lost very fast in the last 3 generations, 2 to 3 generations. Losing these skills, this knowledge, means that then we are very much in the hands of the seed companies. Also that our gene pool gets narrower, because...
What gene pools?
Well, the
plant genes.
Yeah, the gene pool of our vegetable crops, for example, gets narrower because our genetic material is all tied up in the hybrids. That can be returned back into a state of open pollination, but at the moment we are stuck with our genetic diversity being tied up in hybrids, which is another reason why my concern is that the cultivation of open pollinated seeds and open pollinated varieties has to be taken up again. And especially the whole thing of saving seeds is actually really important, so that we can reconnect our food growing food with the seeds. I think so many people who've able to save their own seeds, it's a completely different experience. and that you can follow the plant in its entire cycle, and that is a unique experience that somehow you have to experience.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Because, as we know, you take a carrot or a parsnip and beetroot or a cabbage or lettuce, you grow it as what they are, and then we normally harvest them, and then they go in the pot for the kitchen. They go to the market. But if we take these plants further and we see the second life that they have, which is really from the point of when they are mature to the point where they can produce seed, it's an entire different life that we see with the carrot, with the parsnip, with the lettuce, with the cabbage. And just the wonder of seeing how these food plants look and develop, and at the same time how that plant really is interacting with this environment. Because that interaction is really with the insects, and we see a whole different element coming into the plant, because that second stage of flowering and seed, it's all dependent on the light and all dependent on the warmth, whereas the vegetation, of course, also dependent on that, but it's primarily a vegetative process, whereas the second part of the plant's life, the flowering and the seed, is very much the whole reproductive process, which brings back the new life, which is then encapsulated in the seed for the second generation.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying that experience gives something back to the growers?
Definitely, I feel that you could then develop a quite different relationship to your food plants. So that it is production, but also it is reproduction, and it's this whole element of producing and reproducing that brings you into a different relationship with those plants that you otherwise grow.
You mean it's a wholer relationship?
Absolutely, a wholer relationship. Yes, yes.
Now you talk about seeds as cultural common good. What do you mean by that?
If you consider that the seeds, our food plants, have been developed by farmers all around the world, those seeds were developed and passed on from generation to generation. The skills, the knowledge was passed on from generation to generation. That was a cultural activity, and those seeds were in a certain sense a common good, you can say, because they didn't belong to anyone especially. They were developed, and yet they were passed on, they were exchanged, given as gifts, or maybe sold. But it is a common good as such, because there's a recognition that the seed is our food, and therefore there needs to be a fluidity in this whole aspect, and not tied into a kind of a regulation so strongly as we've seen in the last 40, 50 years. That's a whole nother conversation one can have about the seed regulations. But the fact that it's a common good means that then I can give you seed and out of my freedom, because actually what I've developed I really appreciate, and now I give it to you because I've been happy with what I have developed. And so now I give you that possibility to see, well, what does it look like? How can you develop that further, perhaps? And that's what's always been happening in cultures. And so that's been now locked in, that's been locked up somehow, and I think that all belongs in the cultural sphere, you can say, of agriculture. This whole interacting with the plant in this second stage of regeneration. And so therefore the seed is, from that point of view, I find, is a common good, that you can reproduce the seed and you can give them on, or you can exchange them. But it's a free gift to us. I didn't do anything towards it apart from preparing all the stages towards it. The sun did it, the water did it, the air did it, the seasons did it, the soil did it. You can't take that away. That's what nature has done. I've just been there in the process, helping the whole thing along to get the best quality. But the rest is out of your hands.
What kind of world would you like to see in 30 years regarding, the seed and our relationship to it?
I think what really strikes me at the moment is how industrial agriculture has become, you can say, fossilized. I mean, it's maybe a funny term, fossilized, but we are using fossil fuels. So it's become very rigid, very set, very few people on the land, very few people responsible for producing food for the rest of the nation. I think really in 30 years' time we need to see a lot more people back on the land. And that also means that the seed, whole relationship to seed needs to change. We need to get the farmers, the gardeners, those people who are really wanting to be based on the land, for them to learn the skills of saving the seeds and selection and developing something for their areas, so that we have a kind of we re-establish the diversity that we once had. And I think this fits perfectly in with all the climate chaos we're having at the moment, because the climate is changing, extreme weather this winter with so much rain. We don't quite know, there isn't the regularity maybe that we had. So there's a lot to be said for taking this step, and so therefore I would say in 25 and 30 years to be able to see many more people engaging in this and bringing that seed back onto the land to those who produce the food is really where the seed belongs. It doesn't belong in the big seed companies. It's good to have seed companies who can specialize in certain things, who are working with the farmers. You have to create a different relationship, but ultimately I think that the seed belongs with those who produce the food.
May it be so. Thank you.